Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, everyone. Guys, we are talking about nuclear alert, World War IV, Russian threats, and phase zero. While everybody's been watching what's been going on in the Middle East, while everybody's been looking at Israel, things in Eastern Europe. And look, guys, I live in Europe. I'm not going to lie. I'm in the United Kingdom, and I know a lot of you guys are as well. Things have been moving forwards now. Russia, the Iron Curtain, they are in phase zero. A lot of people have started to talk about World War IV, and I think that is fair because I do think there's going to be two wars fought simultaneously, but quite differently. First of all, I think there's going to be the World War III that we're all expecting, which is green warfare, tanks rolling, bombs dropping. Again, this is going to be, predominantly Eastern Europe, Poland, Latvia, Estonia, the Finland, those countries. Also, there's going to be World War IV, and World War IV, I'm speculating, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be the war, the internal war, the asymmetric war, the sabotage war. Look, guys, lots of stuff's been happening from the 10th, 13th, 14th, and are we on the 15th? No, 10th, 13th, 10th, 11th, 10, 11, 12, 13, and of course we are here today on the 14th, guys. Okay, so Russia's been putting threats out that they've got their army of Spetsnaz undercover operators already planted in the United Kingdom. What have we said, guys? What have I been saying on this channel? The real threat to the United Kingdom is from these saboteurs that could potentially have been bought and paid for through networks and chains of Russian oligarchs and money and hoteliers, all that sort of stuff, guys. Look, we already have an army in the United Kingdom. We've been talking about this for the longest time. That's why I'm talking about World War IV. Not many people are talking about it. A few channels are considering the prospect of World War IV, and World War IV is the war within. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, let's just get on with this because we are talking about the nuclear rhetoric that's built up. And look, guys, if you've been following this channel for a while, you guys know what my thoughts are on this. I'm not saying it's a zero. I'm just saying, well, I'm giving you guys what my thoughts are. Anyway, guys, look, let's just get on with this and we'll get this live stream done and then I'll be jumping onto you guys' questions. So Putin makes nuclear threat after Donald Trump hints he could give Ukraine Tomahawk missiles. So this is obviously all hinging around these Tomahawk missiles. And you've got to understand, if the Americans do give the Ukrainians Tomahawk missiles, again, guys, look, the two options here when we're talking about these long-range missile systems are either they give them to the Ukrainians and the Ukrainians can fire them at whatever they want, which I think is highly unlikely. In that context, I don't think it's going to happen. Or they give them to the Ukrainians and say, right, look, you guys can fire at this missile production facility or whatever, this radar production facility, and this whatever. Basically, the Americans would tell the Ukrainians what to fire at and when. In that second context, with that second context, then you start to think, right, okay, so it actually makes sense for the Americans now to give the Ukrainians those weapon systems, because then the Americans can take out any facility in Russia that they want with American weapons and just blame it on the Ukrainians. Say, hey, you guys are in war with Ukraine, so you guys need to deal with that. Imagine if that was the other way around, guys. Imagine if that was, imagine if the Russians were giving, I don't know. Imagine if the Russians were giving the Venezuelans long-range strike capability and taking out, I don't know, targets in Florida. U.S. Special Command, U.S. SOCOM is in Florida. The European headquarters is in Florida. So imagine if Vladimir Putin gave the Venezuelans Oshnik weapon systems and said, yes, of course, you guys can have Oshnik, but you can only fire it at U.S. command centers. Then in that context, imagine how the Americans would feel. The Americans would have their bases taken out by literally the Russians. Anyway, guys, let me get onto this article. I will get some chat and then we'll talk about phase zero. I know we talked on it a little bit yesterday. More people are talking about phase zero and how Russia is ready. Where are we? So Putin ally makes nuclear threat after Donald Trump hints US could give Ukraine Tomahawk missiles. key advisor of Vladimir Putin appeared to warn that Donald Trump could trigger a nuclear war if he gives Ukraine long-range Tomahawk missiles. Well, all Tomahawk missiles are long-range. They don't use short-range Tomahawk missiles, but whatever. Former Russian Prime Minister spoke out. Sorry, guys. Former Russian Prime. The ads are popping up. Former Russian Prime Minister spoke out after U.S. President said he could be prepared to provide Kiev with the means to launch strikes deep into enemy territory. Now they've already floated this idea, guys. You know, the Americans and the Americans and the coalition. They've already said this. Donald Trump's already said this. He's already said that, you know, the Ukrainians should have that ability. And I agree. I agree, guys. The Ukrainians should have that ability to strike deeper into Russia because, you know, the Ukrainians are kind of trying to like fight a war at the moment. And look, guys, my rules on warfare are simple. Avoid war at all costs. But if you find yourself in a war, try to win that war at all costs. So the Ukrainians are now in this really peculiar position where imagine, have I got a pen? Have I got a pen? I haven't got a pen. I don't know. Imagine, I don't know. Imagine the country, right, with the Russian border. The Russians are allowed to get right up to the border, and the Ukrainians can't shoot at them. As soon as they cross the border, they're allowed to shoot at them. So it makes no sense because the Russians have kind of like, it's like a base. You know, it's like, you know, when you're at school and you have a tree and you buy that tree and you can't get tug when you're at tag, when you're playing tag and you have a base at school and like if your hands touching a tree, you can't get tagged. That's kind of like what it is right now. You know, the Russians have a base where they can't get tagged and then they can just jump over that base whenever they want. If it was me, guys, I would like straight away, I'd say, look, it should be weapons free. Like all wars, you know, avoid them at all costs. But if you're in them, you need to win them at all costs. So I might tell Putin if the war is not settled, we may do it, Trump said on Sunday. So this was like 2 days ago. And look, guys, everybody's been focused in the Middle East, and that's right. But what things have been happening behind the scenes. So Donald Trump has said, I might tell Putin if the war is not settled, we may very well do it, Trump said on Sunday. We may not, but we may do it. Do they want to have tomahawks going in that direction? I don't think so. So I think what Donald Trump is doing here, I think he's over. I don't want to be negative about Donald Trump, but you know, I'm going to be critical. I'm going to be objectively critical here, guys. Okay. I think Donald Trump is overplaying his hand here. Russia is too big. Russia's like, you know, Donald Trump could play that hand with Gaza. You know, Gaza's like this big, maybe even this big. Like I was looking at Gaza on a map and the aspect ratio on the map wasn't in its favor. And like Gaza's like this big, you know, Russia is like this big. So, you know, you can't play this same hand with Russia. And look, guys, I've been right on the money all along with this, guys, okay? So you can't play the same hand that you played with Gaza with the Russians, guys. It just won't work. You can't play the same hand with the Iranians either. It won't work. But to some extent, you will get away with it a lot more with the Iranians. You're not going to get away with this with Russia. Remember, guys, okay? The Russians have some fantastic, you know, long-range strike capability. They have proven munitions, they have proven drone platforms, they have proven Kinzhal missiles, Oshnik missiles, they have a shit ton of production facility that people don't think about in the West. Anyway, in a post on Telegram, Medvedev, a noted Russian warhawk, said it is impossible to distinguish between Tomahawk missiles carrying nuclear warheads and conventional ones after they are launched. I agree, guys, 100%. Now, this is one of the reasons why Vladimir Putin developed that. Again, this is my speculation, analysis, and opinion. This is one of the reasons why Vladimir Putin developed the Oshnik medium-range interballistic continental missile. It's not continental, is it? The intermediate-range missile, because the Oshnik missile, when that is launched, it has a very particular launch signature that can be seen from space. And when the Americans see one of these things being launched, they know that that doesn't have the capacity to reach them in America. So the Americans are like, right, okay, we're not going to shoot this down with our space lasers or, I don't know, whatever else they've got. What they will do is think, right, somewhere in Europe's going to get the good news. So So how should Russia respond exactly, says Medvedev? Exactly. He said, hinting that Moscow could launch nuclear weapons in response. Look, ladies and gentlemen, I've said all along, this is going to start by accident. I've said this many times, guys. This will start by accident. What do I mean by that? I want everybody to cast their mind back to the. I mentioned this like a couple of days ago, but I want to mention it again because it's a good example and it's a real world example, and you guys can see. Oh shit! Yeah, this is going to start by accident. So I think last year, I think it was last February actually. I may be wildly wrong on that, but it was in the Baltics. There was a Russian ship. And there was a German helicopter flying close to the Russian ship, and the Russian ship fired a smoke grenade or a signal smoke or something in the direction of the German helicopter. The Germans, they saw it as a smoke and they made evasive maneuvers, and there was no incident. However, ladies and gentlemen, the situation now is a lot more dire. If that happened today, if that scenario happened right now today, I could genuinely see World War III starting within about 30 minutes. You would have nothing, and then in 30 minutes' time, you would have sunk Russian ships, downed German helicopters, NATO air bases on fire, and missile retaliatory strikes everywhere, because everybody's tension has been ratcheted up. What do I mean by that? Article 4, ladies and gentlemen. Article 4. That's what I'm talking about now. A lot of these Baltic nations, Estonia, Poland, Romania, they've all invoked Article 4. Now, look, guys, I don't know what's being said on Article 4. Article 4 is far more potent than Article 5. Article 4 actually gives people the reality to do stuff, and the legal framework. So whereas Article 5 just says an attack on one member state is an attack on all member states, blah, 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 Article 4, when they invoke Article 4 before an attack, they say, right, if X, Y, and Z happens, we are going to do A, B, and C. Or words to that effect. And they will say, right, Britain, you are going to provide this. Poland, you are going to provide this. And everybody signs it. Everybody agrees with it. So that when that happens, they just go through their rules of engagement. Right, we spoke about this. I pressed that button. You pressed that button. They pressed that button. We turn that key and we press that button together. That's kind of the stuff that happens. So now, let's go back to that incident in the Baltics, in the Baltic Sea. Let's just pretend that this incident, let's just say that this incident happened again. And for whatever reason, Chinese whispers, and look, guys, anybody who's been in the military, these things happen all the time. There's always a cock-up. There's always a cock-up. You tell somebody to do something, they get the wrong message, they tell the wrong message to someone else, they play Chinese whispers, and by the time you know it, you get the captain of that ship. Just imagine this, guys. You get the captain of that ship saying, fire a signal flare in the direction of that of that German helicopter. Right? Just say that. Let's just pretend that. The commander says to the private soldier, because he's in a rush, right, fire at that helicopter, because previously he's told him to load that ammunition up with signal flares. But guess what? That private soldier who he told, or I don't know, seaman or whatever, he's off on his dinner break and he's just not done it yet. The new guy gets on and he's like, right, I've just been told to fire at that helicopter. Okay. So he fires live. Absolute accident, guys. Total mistake. Wasn't meant to happen. But now, because of the invocation of Article 4, the Germans, we've just been fired at. We're going to sink that ship. So the German helicopter gets fired at. Maybe they go down, maybe they don't. But the Germans respond in kind, sink that Russian ship. The Russians get a command from back home. We've just had our ship sunk. The captain says, we fired a signal flare and the sank us. You see how these things happen and escalate by accident? That's where I think it's going, guys. People are so on edge right now. Like when you're in the, I don't know if any of you guys have ever been fisticuffs. You know, like when you're in like like you're doing melee outside the in the Red Lion car park, right? You're outside the Red Lion car park and you're about to go melee in the car park, and somebody pushes you and you push them and they push you, and at some point you start throwing hands. That's how it works, guys. You know, that is literally how it works. We're at the pushing phase right now, ladies and gentlemen. Those one bombs have not been thrown yet, but I think we are getting closer and closer by the day. Also, ladies and gentlemen, phase 0. More people are talking about phase 0 now, and the Russians are ready for war, guys. The Russians are ready for war. Russia is in phase 0 of World War III as Putin's tentacles spread over Europe with drones and little green men, experts warn. Look, guys, this article was released yesterday, 13th of October. I forgot what month it was. So what they're talking about in this article is stuff I've been talking about for over a year, guys, all right? The threat of asymmetric warfare and actual drone warfare within the United Kingdom, drone warfare within Europe, because all these parts are readily available and you can buy all these parts readily available. Analysts say the writing is on the wall and Russia will strike sooner than expected. So there we are, guys. Russia could strike sooner than expected. This is what an analyst is saying. Right, guys, I'm going to jump over to the YouTube chat in a minute, but I'm going to start with the TikTok chat. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for hanging out with me this morning. Guys, listen, if you're on and you've not done so already, can you hit those... Can you guys hit those buttons, like, comment, subscribe, bell notification, whatever platform you're watching on, guys. We're on YouTube, we're on X, and we are on TikTok. If you're watching on TikTok, the buttons are up here somewhere. If you're watching on YouTube, they're like down there, and I really do appreciate each one of those little clicks from your fingers, ladies and gentlemen. And if you guys are watching on X, then the buttons are up there. Right, guys, let me get these comments, and then we will continue with phase 0. Cosmic Channel's joining. Welcome, Cosmic Channel. Guys, listen, we are triple streaming this morning, so if you can't get your message through on any of the platforms, go on to another platform. We're on YouTube, we are on X, and we are on TikTok. Channel, Millionella, Moon Tyler, Shane Bergin, Rob73, changing lots of people. Sharon Owens saying good morning to you. Jody Lee, Jules61, hello Jules. Dean Region X, Debbie 1973. Guys, can you all share my stuff on your socials? I really appreciate that. It really helps me out. Martin Quinney saying morning, so is Linda Lou. Right, guys, listen, I'm going to jump over to the YouTube chat because I can see lots of questions on here. Right, guys, there's so many questions. I'm not going to be able to get all these questions. James Coley is saying Russia won't use nuclear weapons. Russia won't use nuclear weapons. They use it as a threat, like always. It's like Donald Trump saying he's got to do something. It's just a threat they won't use because nuclear is mutual destruction. We've been told, and I certainly grew up. When I went to in the military, I was told that a nuclear war is something called mutually assured destruction. So the reason people don't have nuclear wars anymore, is because everybody's got these nuclear weapons now. So if you fire a nuclear weapon at one country, they're going to fire them back at you, and everybody, it's going to be a lose-lose for everyone. However, I do believe if nuclear war does come, it would come in the form of mass initial strikes. So I'm talking about, a decapitation strike whereby country X with nuclear weapons takes out everything that could fire back at it at country Y. So you would take out all the military, all the logistics bases, all the submarine bases, all the ports, all the airfields, anything that had the capacity to strike you back. You would totally emasculate that country, and then you would say, right, do you guys want to surrender, or do you want me to start doing cities? Some people in the United Kingdom may say, please do London, and then we'll negotiate. I don't know. But there is, I believe that there is if this is going to happen, it would happen whereby whatever country would fire you, and you have to fire a decapitation strike, guys. You really can't. Where we're talking about mutually assured destruction, that's like, I'm going to fire one missile at you. Okay, so I'm going to fire one missile at you. Okay, I'm going to fire two missiles at you. Okay, I'm going to fire two missiles at you. So in that context, yes, you would get mutually assured destruction. But if you just unleash the gates of hell and let everything slip and took out all your enemy's ability to fire back at you, then that is not mutually assured destruction. Donna is saying it's like the ball in the back has jammed, so it can't life the seat. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means, Donna. I think Donna's car's seat's been stuck or something. Right, guys, I'm just jumping down. There's lots of comments on YouTube. Footlong Bong is saying, I saw a video apparently of Russia training 30 million kids for the army. Not sure if it's true or not. So I don't know the video that you've seen. What I do know is that in Russia, they have war holidays, and they're like partly state funded. I think they may actually all be state funded. Remember, guys, listen, when I give these live streams and do these live streams, a lot of this information, all the information I've given you guys right now is off my head. So in Russia, they do, it's either state funded holidays or it's a part state funded or something. And they're called war holidays. So it's where families would go away and they would enact a wartime scenario. So they go through these scenarios. And look, here in the United Kingdom, our leaders in Oxford and Cambridge and our prestigious intellectual, our prestigious intellectual facilities, they workshop some great things, and they've been workshopping this new rhyme, and it goes, Gaza, Gaza, do us proud, put those, have you guys seen that? Like, and sorry guys, I'm going off topic. What I'm getting at here is, I'm not going to go down a side quest, guys, we've got lots to get through. What I'm getting at here is, other countries everywhere around the world are preparing for a conflict. Here in the United Kingdom, we don't even know what a woman is. I think we need to take things a little bit more seriously. Brushwork Solution is saying, you never know when that old tent in the attic may be useful. Yeah, I think people, I think that may be useful for some people quite soon. Lisa Jane is saying, Lisa Jane is talking to Tracy. Hang on, guys. There was a comment here from Ham and Eggs. Let me try and find it. Let me try and find if I can see it. Two Sides is saying, I kind of believe those preachers now walking around cities with signs saying the end is nigh. Guys, look, if you've walked around a big city lately, they're all shitholes. Absolute decaying. Like, I don't know where there's a city that's not a shithole. We went to, what did we have to go for? I can't remember what we had to go for, but we had to go to, what did we have to go for? Oh, yeah. We went to get, I don't know if any of you guys, have you guys got that not crusty creme, Too Good to Go up? Have you guys got the Too Good to Go up? There were some crusty creme donuts, and I thought they were closer. Hang on. Yeah, there were some crusty creme donuts, and I thought they were closer when I clicked the button. It turned out they were in Sheffield, on Sheffield High Street, so we had to go to get the crusty creme donuts a couple of nights ago. So we had to go to Sheffield, and honestly, guys, it's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. These are not places of. These are not safe metropolises. They are. They're closer to dystopian Judge Dredd, Judge Dredd megacities. That's if you put a wall around Sheffield, that would be a Judge Dredd megacity. Right, hang on, guys, because Ham and Eggs put a comment on here, and I'm trying to. Right, Ham and Eggs, you put a comment there, but I can't find it. They're so Right, okay. So sorry, guys. Ham and Eggs put a comment on there, but I can't find the comment. Right, guys. Let's get back to this. What's been happening? So we're talking now. We've been talking about the nuclear alert from Russia. Russians have been saying that Donald Trump giving the Ukrainians they're all long range cruise missiles could start a nuclear war. Now, what they're saying is that because there's no difference in launch signature with these missiles, how the Russians supposed to respond, they're going to have to take it a worst case scenario. Also, ladies and gentlemen, I was talking about this yesterday. It looks like more mainstream media are coming out and talking about it now. Russia is in phase 0 of World War III. I am going to talk about World War IV as well, guys. So I think World War III and World War IV are going to be fought simultaneously. However, Russia is in phase 0 of World War III as Putin's tentacles. I thought I was going to say something else then. Let's just put that word in. You know what I'm going to say. Russia in phase 0 of World War III as Putin's testicles spread all over Europe. Sorry, guys. Tentacles spread all over Europe with drones and little green men, experts warn. I was actually watching who was it? You know the guy, the NATO guy, Mark Rutte? He was actually laughing about Vladimir Putin's nuclear submarine breaking down. Not nuclear submarine. One of Vladimir Putin's submarines breaking down. And I've said this all along, people need to stop laughing at these, because you know what's going to be really funny? Do you know it's not going to be funny at all? Do you know what's going to be really sad? When the Russians and the perceived bad guys destroy, all these new shiny aircraft carriers that, billions of dollars just gone. New warships, frigates, destroyers, just gone. Do you know what they're going to get taken out by? A couple of $1,000 drone. That's what's going to happen, and those drones are going to be launched from oil tankers, and then there's going to be no response to that. You can't do anything, I was talking about asymmetric warfare a long time ago, and it's virtually impossible. So all these people, these admirals, yes, we have the most expensive ships with the fanciest equipment and all this, and we would be no match for Russia. Would be no match for us. I'm thinking, yeah, are you stupid, mate? That's not how they're going to fight you. You don't fight your enemy at their strengths. In fact, you don't even attempt to fight your enemy. A fair fight, this should be a t-shirt, guys. In fact, I know this will be on a t-shirt. A fair fight is bad tactics. So as far as the Russians are concerned, when we talk about naval warfare, I'll come on to Europe and drones in a minute, guys. When we talk about naval warfare and the Russians, they've looked at the US Navy and thought, yeah, we don't want none of that. How do we defeat this? And they've just thought of another tactic to defeat that Navy. And I think their tactic is better, guys, because their tactic actually earns them money, whereas our tactic just costs us money. And that comes down to another price analysis again, where people say, oh, the NATO budget is this. I'm thinking, yeah, but what does that mean? Literally, what does that mean? If a kilo of gunpowder in Russia is $1 and it's $1,000 in the United States, that price metric makes no sense. And again, there's just been a big fire and the subsequent explosions at a huge ammunition depot, gunpowder production facility in Tennessee. Lots of people died. Was that sabotage? I did a video and I said I think it is. Anyway, guys, so Putin's tentacles are spread all over Europe. Sorry, guys, I'm thinking of something else. Putin's tentacles spread over Europe with drones and little green men. So I've been talking about this for a while. Can you, here's the question, guys, all right? Can you, right now, go into Curry's PC World, I don't know, wherever you guys go to get your tech stuff, can you buy a little quadcopter drone? Can you do it? I'd speculate you can, because I know I can. Do you have to have any background checks, any security checks to do that? No, of course not. Absolutely not. Okay. Can you buy these parts online? These electric motors, these batteries, these FPV systems. Can you buy all that online? Absolutely. You can buy that all online and it's legal. There's a hobbyist shop. It's in, it's about 20 minutes away from us. You can go in there. It's like a hobbyist there. It's called, I don't know. aviation. I don't know. I don't even know what it's called. It's like it's a model airplane shop, but you go in there and they sell all the drone parts and stuff, and they can order them for you as well. So you don't even need to order it online. You don't even need to give your details. You can go into that shop. You can go in 1 week and say, "Hey mate, I want to buy one of these high-powered motors." "Oh yeah, here you are. That's how much it is." "Okay, there you are, cash. Right, it'll be ready. It'll be 2 weeks." "No worries, mate. Come back." "All right, thank you." You go in and you buy, assuming you've got 6 of them with 6 and again, you can buy all. What I'm getting at here is, guys, when we're talking about drones, you can build these in the United Kingdom. You can build these a lot easier in the United Kingdom, in Europe. You can do that a lot easier than importing them. It's not going to happen. Remember, there was an attack planned on an attack foiled on Sheffield Meadowhall. It hit the news a couple of days ago or something. Hit the news. So we know these attacks are being planned. I think that one was involving drones as well. So we know these drone attacks are being planned. "Oh, but Sean, what are those little drones going to do?" I tell you what they're going to do. They're going to use the grenades that they've, put it this way, guys, right? Imagine you get and again, I'm not saying anything that's not readily available. Imagine if somebody smuggles over. Here's a question, guys. Do you think it's possible to smuggle 1 hand grenade over from Ukraine, from Europe, through over into Poland, through Schengen, all the way up to Calais? We already know this is happening, guys, because Patrick Christie did an article a couple of days ago, and he said the police have found assault rifles and weapons of war. That, to me, says those weapons of war are explosives. So let's just say that you've got 1 grenade for, I don't know, 300 grams or whatever. Call it 500, call it a kilo, it doesn't matter. Get the grenade, put that in a glass jar, attach the glass jar to the bottom of your drone. Off you go. You've got flying. You've got a flying bomb. You've literally got a flying bomb. When that high up, you drop it, kaboom. The glass smashes. The lever goes. There you go. How much does a glass jar cost, guys? How much does a glass jar cost? £1? £1? £2? What are we talking? And this is what people don't understand. People don't understand how easy it is to actually do these things in the United Kingdom or Europe. Little green men. Experts are warning about more little green men incursions into Europe. What I think they're talking about there is, I don't think they actually mean the little green men that went to Crimea. What I think they're talking about there is the use of Tutushkas, plague thugs, and agent provocateurs, which are, I believe, already in Europe. So there's your army, guys. There's your green force, and they're already in the United Kingdom. I'd say they're already in hotels around Europe as well. They, I would say, are ready to strike. Right, guys, I'm going to get some more questions here, and then we're going to talk about the nuclear alert again. CC Outdoors is saying cities are being destroyed by design. It's a push towards 15-minute cities. Yeah, I mean, we've spoke about this quite a lot. It is quite concerning that all these new housing estates that are being built, they only have 1 road in and out. So it's very easy then. If you wanted to stop those, if you wanted to control the people in that housing estate, you just put 1 security guard, on that entry exit point. You tell them it's for their safety, and that's it. It's done. And I think they're building these up to gated communities as well. I first saw these gated communities when I was in South Africa. I can't remember what year it was. Maybe 2009, 2010. And South Africa was massively. It's massively it's just like gated communities everywhere. It's just full of gated communities. And I mean, when you're in one of these gated communities, they're quite. Some of them are quite cosmopolitan. They're quite nice. You don't actually know you're in a gated community. But as soon as you go out of those gated communities, you're not in the gated community, then shit starts to get wild, guys. And it really does. If any of you guys have ever worked in South Africa, it's a wild place, guys. Sharon Owen is saying King Trump says he's going to sort out Russia and Ukraine next. Do you think that's possible? No, I don't. So no, I don't think it's possible that Donald Trump can. I mean, he can certainly try. He doesn't have the leverage that he had on Gaza. Now, the leverage on Gaza is quite simple. Gaza, you know, I don't know if you was on earlier, Sharon, but like Gaza's like this big, you know, and Russia's like this big. You don't have that leverage. You know, Trump's leverage was if you don't surrender and you don't come to the negotiating table, we're just going to keep bombing you, and there's going to be nothing, and you're going to be gone. You can't do that with Russia. They're too big. They're too vast. And that vastness does account for a lot. You know, there will be lots of secret facilities in Russia that nobody knows about. They have a lot of mobile long-range missile launchers, you know, and they can launch these things. So you can't put the same pressure on Putin as you do on, I don't even know who's in charge of to the Gazans. It just doesn't work like that. You can't apply that same pressure. You know, Donald Trump can't say, we will get, sorry, that's not Donald Trump. We'll give the Ukrainians long-range Tomahawk missiles if the Russians don't come to the table. You can't do that. The Russians will just soak it up. How many, like, let me have a look at the, let me have a look what warhead these cruise missiles have. Tomahawk. There'll be a host of munitions, but I just want to have a look at, I'm just going to have a look at the standard payload for a Tomahawk missile. The standard payload for a Tomahawk missile is 450 kilos. So that's not much, guys. That is not much. Do you know what, guys? It is. But when you're talking about the battlefield as vast as it is now, that's only just over twice as much as a, go on. Shaheed. So they only, I think a Shaheed, no, actually, I think a Shaheed has 100. Give me a second, guys. I know there's lots of different variants of Shaheeds. 50 kilos, right? Okay, so I was wrong. Oh, no. Okay, so the Shaheed 159, okay, right, okay. So here's the thing, guys, right? Here's the thing. Shaheed 149, like I said, there's a lot of different variants. The Shaheed 149 can carry 500 kilos of explosives. So the Shaheed drone, the big one, can carry 500 kilos, okay? Now, the Tomahawk missile can carry 450 kilos. So, you know when I keep saying this is a conflict on an industrial scale? How quick do you think you can produce those Tomahawks? How quick do you think you can produce those Shaheeds? So straight away, guys, you know, the numbers don't add up. I don't think this is going to be a game changer for Ukraine. I really don't. I don't think this is going to be a game changer for Ukraine. I don't think anything can be a game changer right now other than masses of troops, like masses and masses and masses of troops. So when Donald Trump is threatening with Tomahawks, we're going to give them the Tomahawks. The Russians are like, we are already outpacing you with kinetic strike capability, Donald. This is not going to help Ukrainians, you know, because it's not. So Sharon Owen's question there. Sharon Owen's question. King Trump said he's going to sort out Russia and Ukraine next. Do you think it's possible? No. He doesn't have the leverage, and the Tomahawk missiles are not that leverage. They're not that leverage, guys. Look, guys, I'm just giving you guys the maths. Do the maths, all right? Maths doesn't lie, although some people think it does. It doesn't, all right? Tomahawk missile can deliver 450 kilos. You know, that's a conventional warhead. The big Shaheeds can deliver 500 kilos. So already, it's not really a threat because what does that mean? How much does it cost? Let's see how much it costs. So 1.3 million. Let's see how much the Shaheed costs. I know this number is going to be massively wild. Okay, so look, guys, I think this is important that everybody understands this, all right? So you know how people talk about NATO having this combined spending power on defense, right? So the Tomahawk, just get these numbers in your brain, okay? The Tomahawk missile costs $1.3 million, and that can deliver 450 kilos of explosives, yeah? So just do that, 1.3 million for 450 kilos of explosives. The Shaheed drone can range from $20,000 to $50,000. And that would be to deliver 500 kilos. So when people say, oh, but the money, it doesn't, it's a false metric, guys. The spending metric's a false metric. You know, these drones, you can obviously, you know, I think that price is, this is from AI, that price is low. That price is very, 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 very low. I would say it's on the line of, I would say the big ones, you're looking at $100,000 to $150,000 for one of the big ones. But still, guys, look, $150,000, you can fire like almost 10 of them. And so you can fire 10x Shaheed drones for the price of one Tomahawk missile, and the Shaheed drones are carrying more explosives. So you get 10 more, you literally get 10 times, more than 10 times bang for your buck. So when people come up and they say, oh, but NATO's got this spending power and we spend this much on defense, it doesn't matter, guys. It's not a real metric. Google it is saying, oh, Silence is saying, hi all, what have I missed? Silence, we have been talking about the nuclear alert that's come from Russia. World War IV is here, and the Russians look like they are ready, willing, and able. Obviously, we're triple streaming, guys, so please show your support on all platforms. If you've missed the first part of this video, you guys can go and watch it on YouTube. They'll all be uploaded on YouTube, and you can, like, skippity-dippity right to the beginning. Right, where are we? Google it on TikTok is saying, hang on. Google it on TikTok is saying, Israeli troops open fire on suspects in Gaza after violation of ceasefire agreement, IDF says. Right, let me get this up. Guys, I do want to focus on Russia, World War IV and nuclear threats, but I will jump on that in a second. IDF. Oh, yeah. Right, okay. 58 seconds ago, guys. Breaking news. I may have to come straight back on and do a live stream about this, guys, actually. Gaza latest. Israeli troops open fire on suspects in Gaza after violation agreement, after ceasefire violation. IDF says Israel says its troops have opened fire after suspects approached its troops in Gaza. Meanwhile, Donald Trump says he wants to rebuild the territory but hasn't committed to a Palestinian state. Right, let me get the key events. 12 minutes ago. Right, okay. That's the headline, guys. I want to focus on what's happening in. I want to focus on this live stream on what's happening in Europe, what's happening in Russia. I may jump straight back on and do another live stream on that. Google it is saying World War IV. We haven't had World War III yet. Listen, guys, I'm calling it. There's quite a few people who are saying the same. World War III and World War IV are going to be fought simultaneously. You've got to separate these two conflicts, okay? You're going to have the internal conflict, which is subversion, sabotage, grey warfare, asymmetric warfare, terror attacks, internal strikes on countries by their own people with their own kit and equipment, you know, people going rammy, stabby, things getting set on fire. That's why I'm talking about World War IV. And then we've got the prospect of World War III. And look, guys, I've said this so many times. I do think that this will start by accident. It will be an accident where somebody will give a message, it will go wrong, the message will come down, and then all of a sudden, because of Article 4, because all these rules of engagement have already been enshrined in law, people are just going to start firing. And I don't mean firing with small arms, AK-47s, AK-74s and M4 assault rifles. They're going to start using big boy kit, big boy ballistic missiles. Right, let me get the YouTube comments. Guys, the chat on YouTube is wild this morning. I hope is everybody behaving? Is everybody behaving themselves on the chat, guys? Here we are. Look, so Donna Hogan here on YouTube is saying, Telegraph, Russia mocked over broken submarine in English Channel. NATO chief says pursuit of Novorossiysk is less a hunt for Red October, more hunt for the nearest mechanic. And look, guys, these people who are laughing and joking right now about the state, and it is, the Russian, I think they call it the Grey Navy, or is it the Blue Navy? I'm not naval, guys. In the military, you'd say it's your green fleet, and then you would have a black fleet, you'd have a green fleet, you'd have a black fleet, and then you'd have a civilian fleet. So I don't know what they call it in the Navy. I think it might be like blue fleet or blue ships or something, which would be naval ships. We spend a phenomenal amount of money in the United Kingdom, in the West, on the most technologically advanced warships. We have just read there, right? We have just read, we were talking about it. The Shaheed, the big Shaheed drone can carry a 500-kilo warhead. So you can imagine now launching those from an oil tanker. Unsuspectedly launching those from an oil tanker. How do you defend against that, guys? Guys, look, can you put in the chat how you would defend against that? Like, imagine it there. Donna Hogan, imagine you're there. You're the admiral of the British Queen Elizabeth Strike Group. You've got you're stood there, you've got your pipe, I'm assuming you'd have to have a beard, Donna. I'm assuming Donna would have to have a fake beard to be a captain. I don't know. That's why I'm visualizing. And Donna's standing there. She's got her pipe, and she's got all her ships and her logistics and her frigates and destroyers and battle. All the billions and billions of pounds worth of ships. There with your pipe one night, and all of a sudden you get a radar return from a civilian shipping vessel, and you can't believe what's happening. You wasn't expecting this at all. Next thing, 10 Shaheed drones hit the side of your ship and your ship sank. And they came an oil tanker. How do you respond? How do you respond in that circumstance? Do you sink the oil tanker? Well, that's not going to be a good day out, is it? You're going to get an environmental disaster. Whoever owns that oil ship, probably the Russians, they're going to say, we had one of our oil tankers destroyed by unprovoked attack on our ship. It has caused environmental disaster. This is Britain's fault. And all your potential evidence is just sank. It's not going to work, is it? Do you not do anything? And then they might fire another attack? How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that scenario? It's virtually impossible, guys. I promise you, it's virtually impossible. And then all these people who are laughing at the Russian fleet, they're all going to be laughing at the Russian fleet, and then all their fleets being sank by civilian oil tankers, and they're like, well, it's no longer a hunt for Red October. It's a hunt for some more money to rebuild the battle. I don't know, guys. I can't think of anything witty at the time. But you guys see where I'm going, right? It's not. And again, as far as the Russians are concerned, why the Russians or anyone? Why are you going to take on the world's biggest navy? So America have the world's biggest navy. The U.S. Navy have the world's second biggest air force, second only to the U.S. Air Force. Why are you going to take them on? Like, literally, why are you going to try and take them on force for force? You're not going to do that. It's a no-brainer. Ham and eggs says, send men up the side and take the ship. The real Raven one. Haven't you watched Hornblower? Yeah. You could send your special forces guys with little cutlasses, little cutlasses in their mouths. Go on, lads, earn your money, earn your bread and butter. Rachel McClelland is saying, when is all this going to kick off? I thought you said nukes would never. Okay, I'm still under that. I'm still under that. You know, I'm still under that. I'm still under that. I still don't believe there's going to be a nuclear exchange. What I'm talking about now is, what if I'm wrong? What if there is going to be a nuclear exchange? You know, and I've said, you know, people are talking about mutually assured destruction, which would be by where, you know, you fire nukes at us, we're going to fire nukes at you. Unfortunately, guys, the game's changed. You can do a decapitation strike and take out a whole nation's nuclear triad. You know, take out their air, sea, and land-based capabilities. They can't strike you back. You don't have nuclear, you know, you don't have mutually assured destruction. It's a big gamble, guys. It's a big gamble. But look, we are talking about global conflict now on an industrial scale. Yes, no, I agree. Rachel, I am agreeing 100%. I've not changed my mind. What I'm doing now is I'm talking about, you know, the likelihood of this and the potential for this. I still think the potential is low, but it's certainly not zero. Certainly not a zero. Certainly not a zero chance. And when we talk about these conflicts, these things could happen by will happen by accident. You know, I don't want to repeat what I've just said, but like I just said, I'm not going to repeat it. By accident, guys. You know, we've got Article 4 that's being invoked now. So, you know, airspace, for example, you know, these aircraft encroaching into Estonian airspace for like 13 minutes or whatever. They're going to get shot down now. So if there is real pilot error, so just for example, say like the Russian pilots really do get their navigation systems are down and they're lost. And it happens, guys. It does. It happens. And they stray into Estonian, Polish, Romanian airspace. They're going to get shot down. And that could be a 100% simple mistake, innocent mistake. That could really be those Russian systems failing. And then the, you know, the Polish or whoever shoot them down because Article 4 has already been invoked. And then you get World War III starting by accident. Karma Creepy Queen is saying, I think with Putin, he's not scared, but he's not stupid either when it comes to nuclear. Yeah, you've got to understand, you know, Putin will understand that, you know, the Russians will understand their own nuclear capabilities. You know, I think the likelihood of anyone firing a nuclear weapon. In fact, you know what? I will say this. I think the likelihood of anyone firing a nuclear weapon before there's been a series of nuclear tests is practically zero. It is literally, it's practically zero, guys. You know, you're just not going to do it. You need to do those nuclear tests, the initial nuclear tests, to make sure your own stuff works. All right. People think that, you know, having, I don't know, having a nuclear weapon in your store is like, I don't know, having a drill. You get it and you pull the button, you press the trigger and it works. It's not like having a piece of equipment in your cupboard. There's material, chemicals in there that decay over time, so those chemicals need to be upgraded. There's circuitry, there's all sorts of stuff that can go wrong that needs replacing. So you need a good refurbishment package on those nuclear weapons, which I don't believe the Russians have. You also can't just put them on a missile. There's so much stuff that can go wrong. You know, the forces, brackets can come undone, circuit boards can come loose, all sorts of things that can go wrong. So you can't just put a nuclear weapon on a rocket and say off you go. There's too many engineering things that come into force. That's why I said, and this is one of the reasons why I've said, and I'll be quite clear, I'm not convinced it's ever going to be used. The Kursk region of Russia. Oh, hang on. Guys, I just got this breaking news from the Gaza health minister. At least six Palestinians have been killed by Israeli fire in Gaza. This is just out now, guys. Israeli troops opening fire. It shows how fragile the ceasefire really is. Okay, if people are opening fire, then clearly the ceasefire's gone. if the Israeli troops are opening fire, clearly there is no ceasefire. It's over. That's what I'm getting anyway. Right, guys, I do think I'm going to have to come straight back on this live stream and talk about this, because this is developing thick and fast. Look, so, we're talking about, the question was, Donald Trump's going to have peace in, Donald Trump's going to have peace in Ukraine with Russia. Doesn't even look like there's peace in Gaza in the Middle East at the moment, guys. It does look like that ceasefire is broken. I don't know how else you would. I don't know how else you would say that. Yeah, I think I am, guys. I think I'm going to have to come back before 12 and do another live stream on this. I'm going to jump over the TikTok comments, guys, and then I will close you guys down on TikTok, and then I will jump over to YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've not done so, please go follow me on YouTube, X, and the other platforms. I'm the Real Raven 1 on YouTube, I'm the Real Raven 1 on TikTok, and I'm the Real Raven 1 on YouTube, TikTok, and X. So I'll get the rest of the comments on TikTok, and then I will jump over to YouTube. Martin Quinn is saying, has anybody ever watched Terminator? Of course I've watched Terminator. World War III and World War IV, I start taking over. Yeah. Look, guys, we're all putting our, literally Terminator warned us about artificial intelligence. It could be the artificial intelligence taken over. How do we know it's broken? It could be just a show. Yeah, I think Martin Quinn's talking about the submarine. Google it is saying hapless Rachel Reeves sparked economic boom in completely the wrong country. I wish I had time to talk about that. Anyway. Lulz Whale is saying, hi. Martin Quinn is saying, could even be a fishing boat, and all of a sudden the drones come out like a swarm of weapons. Yeah, look, guys, a fishing boat, an oil tanker, any civilian ship that's that's heavy, which a lot of them are, a lot of them are made of steel. Any civilian ship that's heavy enough that has the weight capacity, you can get something called, you can get these containerized missile systems. You can literally put one of these on the side of a shipping container, and then that shipping container can go right inshore as a cargo ship, and then all the missiles come out the top. Game over, guys. Game over. And then everybody's going to be like, "Oh, we didn't see this coming." Asymmetric naval warfare, guys. It's coming. Timske is saying, did you see the report? Possible nuke in Kursk. So Timske, this would change. Okay, so Timske, can you send me that to my TikTok, mate? I've not seen that. But if that's correct, that would change my whole thesis on nuclear weapons. All right. I've always said that Vladimir Putin had a perfect chance to use a nuclear weapon in Kursk. So that would tick all the boxes for Vladimir Putin. He would have been able to use a nuclear weapon, show the West he's serious. It would, but it wouldn't have ticked any of the West's boxes, because the West said, if you use a nuclear weapon in Ukraine, which he wouldn't have been using a nuclear weapon in Ukraine, he would have been using one in Russia, in his own territory. He could have brought that in on the back of a flatbed, in the back of a truck, whatever. All the scientists, technicians doing the right tests and whatever on the back of that truck, to get it to go off. The delivery method would have been a truck. So it would have been very easy to do, and it never happened. So I'm questioning why, especially at that time. Timsky is saying Russia, in Russia on their own land, the Kursk region. Martin Quinn is saying, when all the little green men come off AI Atlas, the game will change. Well, maybe that's what they're talking about, guys, in the headlines. Google is saying Russia changes prominent opposition figures with terrorism and plotting a coup. Google is also saying, as NATO-Russia tensions rise, Lithuania prepares for conflict. Russia says it has taken control of another village in eastern Ukraine. Look, guys, all this time, people saying that the Russians are over, the Russians are done, their economy is going to collapse. That's all fine, all right? Sorry, guys, I've got to swizzle some dizzles. Yes. People are saying that the Russian economy is gone, it's done, it's over, the Russians are losing the war. That's fine, but look at what's actually happening on the ground. Look at the ground that's been taken. Right, guys. I don't think I'm gonna be able to get all these comments. Googly is saying 770,000 migrants told to leave Russia. Well, I know where there's a place that'll take them. I know a country that would love to take those people, and I know, ladies and gentlemen, that those migrants leaving Russia will not, inside those ranks, there will absolutely not be any Spetsnaz operators that are going to make their way through Europe as refugees and then find themselves in hotels with the ability to make drones. And I don't know. I know that's not going to happen, guys. That is absolutely not going to happen under no circumstances. Martin Quinn is saying everybody would be laughing, going, oh, there's only soil in the bomb, but really the loads are right. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to close you guys down now on YouTube. I'm going to jump over to I'm going to close you guys down on TikTok. I'm going to jump over to YouTube. I'm going to be there for a little bit, guys, but I really think I need to get back on and do another live stream about what's happening in Gaza. It does look like that ceasefire has totally gone now. Yesterday I did a live stream. I said, look, the ceasefire in Gaza is over because there were armed groups shooting at each other. Now it looks like the Israeli military are actually shooting people and unaliving them. So I don't know any other way that you can say that ceasefire has held. Anyway, guys, if you're not jumping over to YouTube, I'm the Real Raven 1 on YouTube. If you're not jumping over to YouTube, guys, I'll be back on later at 8. In fact, I think I'll be on before that, guys. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. And we are off. We are off, ladies and gentlemen. Right, let me jump up here, guys, and get some of these questions. I'm gonna cut this relatively. I'm not gonna do like half an hour or anything because I really want to talk about what's happening here with Gaza, but I do want to do a standalone live stream on that, guys, so it's separate. Right. Rachel is saying, sure, what do you think will happen is Trump approves the use of tomahawks. Putin did say that if they use them, he will destroy us. I don't think that. So what we've just gone through, Rachel, we've just spoke about how the tomahawks are not that. They're not that, they're not a game changer, guys. The tomahawks are not a game changer. They carry a payload of, 450 kilos. And that's what you've got to think about. You see this massive missile, right? You see this massive missile and it, with the fins, the turbo fan. Oh, wow, Tomahawk missiles. That's fine. What's the actual delivery? What's the actual delivery? Well, the delivery is 450 kilos. Again, 450 kilos is a big strike. But when you think Russians have air-launched gliding munitions that are 3 ton, 3,000 kilo, the Fab 3000, it's not really a game changer. And in what numbers are these going to be supplied? People don't understand. This is a global conflict on an industrial scale. The front line in Ukraine is so big, it's unbelievable. So I think the options for Putin would be, one, see how effective they're going to be. And I don't think they're going to be that effective, guys. I really don't. We just looked at it there, 450 kilos. It's not game-changing. There's nothing game-changing about that Tomahawk. You need to be able to fire them at scale, at numbers, and at 1.3 million a pop. I just don't see that, guys. I really don't see that. I don't see the I don't see the difference between that and getting a Cessna aircraft and turning it into a flying bomb, basically, which is what cruise missiles are. Freddie is saying apparently Putin was making excuses saying the Tomahawks will contain nukes to strike Russia. Yeah, so the Tomahawk missiles can be nuclear armed. 100% they can be nuclear armed. What you would then need to ask is, are the Americans giving the Ukrainians their own nuclear weapons? And I don't see that, guys. Under no circumstances do I see that happening. But again, I said that about the F-16s, and I said that about the M1 Abrams. Ouds is saying, oh no, I missed the live. Bloody damn doctor's appointment takes forever. Don't worry, Odds. Don't worry, because you know what? All these live streams are uploaded. You can watch this back. You can watch it from the beginning, and it'll just be as good. Look, guys, I am going to cut this relatively short this morning because I do want to get back on and talk about what's happening in Gaza. I'll just give you guys a quick update. Gaza latest: Israeli troops open fire on suspects in Gaza after violation of ceasefire agreement. IDF says so. This is happening now. It doesn't look like that ceasefire is held. At least 6 Palestinians killed. So, you can see this situation is developing. That's going to have an effect on on Hamas, on the Palestinians. It's going to have a huge effect. Where this is going to lead, I think you're going to see escalations. Let's see what happens, guys. Remember, we're still waiting for the bodies of, I think it's like, I think there's 24 bodies still left to be delivered by Hamas. I don't know if that's going to happen, guys. I don't know if that's going to happen. It may be the case that it doesn't happen and the Israelis say, look, you know what? We gave you a chance. You didn't fulfill your part of the bargain. We're going to bring down the rest of the buildings. It's very... Right now, guys, this could all happen. And remember, Friday's only a few days away. Donald Trump's gone back to America. So what do we always say when the world leaders meet? In fact, guys, listen, wow. This has only just come to me. Who was in Egypt? Literally, guys, who was in Egypt? All the world leaders were all just together in Egypt. So you would expect shenanigans to potentially happen this Friday. Anyway, guys, listen, I am going to close this down now. Oh, hang on. Yeah. So no. Oh, hang on. Oh, so Donna, hang on. Yeah. Okay. So Donna is saying the Ukrainian Flamingo, which is one of their cruise missiles they developed themselves, has a range of 3,000 kilometers and a 1.15 ton warhead. So like I said, the use and the gift of Tomahawk missiles. It's not going to be a game changer. It's not going to be a game changer, guys. It's really not going to be a game changer. Everybody, Tomahawk missiles, what are they going to do? You've got to think about the payload delivery system. All these things, everything in military is a weapons system delivery. Soldiers, that's all their job is. You carry a weapon system somewhere and you use that weapon system. Tanks, they carry the gun around and they use the gun. Artillery, and ultimately, it all comes down to what the payload is. So the payload in a small arms rifle, 5.56 or 5.45, that's your payload. You're a payload deliverer. The Tomahawk missile, guys, 450 kilos, as it says on Wikipedia. So I don't know how that's going to be a game changer when the Ukrainians already have similar capabilities. So there we have it, guys. I don't think they're going to be a game changer at all. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to close this down now. I hope to be back on before 12, and we're going to talk about what's happening in Gaza, what's happening in Israel, what's happening in the Middle East in general. But it does look like now, from articles on mainstream media, it does look like the ceasefire is over, guys. But I will talk about that later on. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, if I don't see you later on in the afternoon, I will see you guys tonight at 8 or just before.